all sat and cried for a while and then said, okay, now what do we do?
Your sister needs a transplant and we're asking you to be her donor.
For cases like mine, this is the only cure.
There's nothing that would have made me double guess or double think anything with it. It was, this is what she needs and this is what's going to happen.
Coming up in the next half hour, family comes first. A pro baseball player presses pause on his career in an effort to cure his sister's cancer. See their love in the face of leukemia, plus the promise and progress of gee-whiz science.
Today, patients who had absolutely no chance of 5-10 years ago of being cured are being cured.
Human cells tailored to target cancer, delivered overnight. Meet one survivor who endured every other treatment before finally finding hope. Welcome to the Morning Medical Update. Cancer, choices, hope, and science. We are coming to you from the Dolph C. Simons Jr. Family Broadcast Studio here at the University of Kansas Health System. I am your host, Jessica Lovell. 28-year-old Amanda Sprinkle learned she had leukemia in May of 2023. Her best chance at survival was a bone marrow transplant. Alexis Del Cid shows us the worldwide search for a donor ended close to home.
So I'm getting PrEP chemotherapy now, just to completely wipe out my immune system and my cells. And then Monday I'll receive a donation from my lovely brother.
Amanda and Jonathan Sprinkle talk daily.
Oh, what's not to love about Jonathan?
There's a lot.
Jonathan's following his dream, pitching for the Corpus Christi Hooks, the AA affiliate of the Houston Astros. But he'll miss crucial playing time in order to donate.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, like, this is for her, and family's always first, and that's always something that we've said to each other.
And Mom and Dad know they've raised caring kids.
Oh yeah, we have always been a very tight-knit crew.
They also know Amanda's treatment is a marathon, not a sprint.
Where you feel like you can't go another step, you can't cry another tear, you're going to have to go one more step.
Amanda is not the family's first cancer patient or even the youngest.
Jacob was diagnosed with lymphoma when he was 11. So he went through treatment over at Children's Mercy from 11 to 14, and he's been in remission now for about 6 years.
Amanda and Jacob inherited a genetic mutation, making them more likely to get cancer.
My mother actually passed away from leukemia. Her brother passed away from lymphoma. And so it's in my family.
And Jonathan's only able to donate because testing proved he didn't share the gene.
You're gonna take a real quick listen to your heart and lungs here, okay?
Jonathan's pre-op checks are all good.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys for
In the operating room, a bone marrow transplant team collects his marrow.
These cells will automatically find their way into her bone marrow, and then in 3 to 4 weeks, they'll start making normal blood, normal immune cells, normal platelets.
From Jonathan's pelvic bone into syringes, into a bag, and then off to cell processing. While Jonathan recovers,
every last drop there.
medical lab scientists filter the marrow and count the cells. Then a machine takes 1 liter of Jonathan's donation and pulls out just 105 milliliters of stem cells. The treatment then heads straight to Amanda's room.
Congrats on getting those cells.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck to you.
For the Sprinkles, this is a moment of celebration and prayer. The infusion begins just as Jonathan and Amanda hug.
Hey guys.
He'll need a week to rest before playing baseball again. She needs 100 days of constant supervision. Doctors determine Jonathan's cells are now in Amanda's marrow, creating new cancer-free blood. She can continue her recovery at home. Time will tell if the transplant is a complete success.
Amanda went home 18 days after her transplant. We are now at day 56 post-transplant. Amanda joins us now. Amanda, how are you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really, really well. Doing everything I need to continue to do to get better every day. I'm bored trapped at home for these 100 days, but we're going to do what we got to do.
Yeah, love it. Jonathan, your parents joke with us that you're going to maybe hold this donation over Amanda's head for a bit. Have you been giving her any grief?
A little bit here and there. It's just family fun, but it's nothing too serious like that. It's just something that we joke around about, and I always give her the hard time that she's now more me than she is her. So, I mean, that's pretty much the end of it, though. It's just nothing but fun banter.
Yeah, good sibling fun. I like that. Amanda, when you were looking for a donor, Jonathan was not necessarily plan A. At first, your team searched for the National Be the Match registry. That has about 41 million potential donors. How many actually matched you?
So I had originally had 26 matches, which was what we thought incredible, because a lot of people struggled to even find one or two. And then life happens. People have vacations planned, it's not the right time for them, and that 26 quickly whittled down to one individual. And then we started looking at Jonathan and did his genetic testing and realized that in the grand scheme of things, him being a half match to me was actually going to end up being better for me in the end than the one potential match that I ended up with.
Yeah, Jonathan luckily became the best choice. Genetic testing showed that he did not carry that family gene mutation. Jonathan, we know that you wanted to help your sister, but it did take away from your baseball career. Any regrets? Because we know that bone marrow collection can be quite painful.
No, zero regrets at all. It's at the end of the day, it's what she needed, and no matter what the price was for that, I was more than willing to pay it. It's my only sister in the entire world, and I would do anything for her. Baseball's fun. I mean, it's obviously we're all chasing a dream, but when it comes down to, the black and white of life and just her being who she is and how much she means to me, it's a no-brainer.
We can feel the family love just watching the photos and hearing your story. So it's so fantastic. Okay, what is this photo about? I must ask.
So that was where they pulled my bone marrow out, and it was just funny because me and Amanda are just notoriously known for taking really bad, funny pictures together. And as soon as I was kind of hobbling around the room, and then she made some joke about me hobbling, and then we just kind of took a picture in the moment. It was what it was.
So I have a question for both of you. Jonathan, you can answer this one first. When your little brother Jacob had cancer, was there anything that you learned from that experience that was helping you now?
That experience kind of taught me to grow up, because that was most of my high school career. Understanding how to balance life, understanding how to, get your own responsibilities in and get a lot of things done, because the family is going to be, more focused on him and the things that he needs, and rightfully so. But, going in the hospital with him and talking with him and trying to keep him positive and upright every day. Definitely taught me some life lessons and challenges.
Amanda, same question. How did Jacob kind of help pave the way for your experience?
As weird as it sounds, it prepared us in a way for this experience. He was diagnosed the week I moved away to college. So, it really forced us to learn how to communicate better as a family and learn to give and when things are needed and when to take and when just to be a family and when it's okay. That it's okay to cry together and be together. And it made, as sad of a situation as it was, it made us even closer as a family in the beginning, and then having to go through it yet again. I don't think we could get any closer as a family unit if we tried anymore. It's done nothing but bring people together.
We can see it and feel it. Joining us now is Dr. Joseph McGurk, Medical Director of Blood and Marrow Transplantation here at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, and of course one of Amanda's doctors. We're also joined by Jody Wilson, Amanda's pre-transplant coordinator. Welcome to both of you. Dr. McGurk, Amanda's story captures one of the amazing developments in bone marrow transplants. Instead of searching for a donor who was a full match, she was able to turn to her brother, even though he was only a half match. How is that even possible? What does this mean for patients?
It's been a remarkable advance and extremely important for improving access to transplant. For many patients like Amanda, the only potential curative therapy out there. If you're Caucasian of Western European descent, your chance of having a match in the registry is about 75%, and indeed Amanda had donors that were identified, but that didn't work out, even in that situation. Yet for other populations, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, African Americans, the chances of having a match in the registry are much less. When I started out in the field, that was the only avenue, unrelated donor transplant or a sibling who happened to be a perfect match. We tried doing mismatched transplants in the mid-90s, and it didn't work out well for patients. And then we came to a better understanding of how the immune system works and how we could modulate that and get these donor grafts to grow in our patients without causing terrible complications such as graft versus host disease. And so those advances have opened up the field remarkably to all people in need of a transplant with outcomes that are very similar to a perfect match.
Jody, you're a transplant coordinator, a nurse who really helps to guide patients and their families through a transplant. I want to listen into what Amanda's mom, Laura, talked about regarding that role.
The level of detail and attention they have to put it in. They're very good at it. They're wonderful. And you know, when you hit something, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. They're like, oh, we got it. Okay, great. You know, you take care of that. So they just, if it's ever a question, they just take care of it.
Yeah, we've got that. Kind of sounds almost like a personal assistant of sorts. Kind of help us understand exactly what you're doing for patients and families.
Well, all of us are nurses, and so we have just an extensive background in different areas, and we bring to the table just our ability to kind of navigate the whole system, which is massive in a system like this, and then also be able to pull in the National Marrow Donor Program and the coordinators there, and be able to walk patients and their families through all these trials. We get to educate them from the day they almost walk in the door with leukemia, explain what it is the process is going to look like, and then we're able to just really walk hand in hand with them and share in these joyful moments when we get to find donors, when we get to announce that their siblings are going to be the donor for them, but then also cry with them when things don't work out and really help them kind of navigate the hard stuff too. So
you're like an unexpected friend through this entire process, and I'm certainly answering a lot of questions along the way. Dr. McGurk, recovering from a bone marrow transplant, we know takes time. When do you think Amanda can leave the house and maybe get back to work?
You know, pretty soon she'll be able to leave the house and go for a walk in a park. She's almost 2 months now out. We don't want her in crowded areas with lots of people. With regard to going back to work, she's a nurse, so she helps others. That's her career. And we're looking at probably 6 months from the time of transplant to allow. She looks great. She's feeling great. All of her numbers are good. But when we look very closely, her immune system still has a long way to go in terms of its maturation. And a simple cold virus could be a real threat to her and land her in the hospital in a hurry.
Yeah, after all this, we want to take no chances.
Absolutely correct.
Jody, transplant recipients like Amanda, again, they've got to have a caretaker with them at all times, really around the clock, 100 days. Tell us a little bit about that burden and what kind of resources are out there to help out these families.
Wow, it's hard on families. Even like Amanda's family has such depth of just family structure. You know, her mom, her dad, her brothers, her significant other. I mean, other family would have stepped in, I'm sure. And so she has just levels of caretakers that could have done it for her. And not every family has that. And so we do have to reach into some other areas and find the resources for that. But there are not, I just don't have a ready-made caretaker or caregiver for people. And that's really hard. We've got some patients and families that literally have nobody at all, and we still have to try our hardest, and we search high and low for caregivers for them to try to make this work for them.
Amanda, Jonathan, we're going to get back with you here in a few moments, but sometimes a bone marrow or blood stem cell transplant doesn't work, but science has a solution. CAR T cell therapy is one of the new frontiers of cancer treatment. It is a form of immunotherapy, proving particularly effective against blood cancers. One woman's lymphoma kept coming back even after chemotherapy and a stem cell transplant. That is when Dr. McGurk offered a clinical trial perfect for her.
My cards and I have a really good relationship. Okay. I'm going to do a magical star.
Okay.
So here we go. I do lean more towards the metaphysical and the power of attraction.
64-year-old Katie Kopp loves to help others heal and find their way.
To me, with the light, you're holding on to your heart.
Then she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma.
When they told me, I was, okay, what's next? Let's get rid of it. I have things to do, you know?
But as we know, cancer isn't quite that simple.
I decided that I can heal myself. I'm not going to sit idly by and let the medical community heal me, which is really ironic because that's exactly what happened.
Enter Dr. Joseph McGurk.
Hello.
He is one of the world's leading experts in blood cancers and cellular therapies. Based at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, he works endlessly to put patients into remission.
It's awe-inspiring. It really is. I'm like a kid in a candy store.
A candy store filled with new therapies helping blood cancer patients live. Patients like Katie, who after failing several other therapies to treat her lymphoma, Dr. McGurk was able to enroll her into a new clinical trial. How new?
What does it feel like to be the first?
I mean, wow. Wow.
It's called Cas9 gene editing, but more simply referred to as CRISPR. And Katie is one of the very first in the world to successfully be treated with this new method. It allows scientists to precisely cut out any strand of donor DNA so it can be used by a patient.
Not only is it potentially a healthier, more effective cell, but it's something that we can access right away.
A type of off-the-shelf option for really sick patients.
We can make these CAR T cells for hundreds of patients from a single donor. We can freeze them, access them like a drug, where we call up and they FedEx them overnight, and we have them the next day to infuse into our patients.
And Katie hasn't slowed down. She's back to work at another one of her many jobs.
All righty. Oh, I've got a huge green light. You know, I'm like, yes. What do you want me to do? Yes. What am I doing next? Yes. You're welcome. It's phenomenal. And Jessica, truly, I didn't realize just how innovative it was.
If you told somebody just in the street, they would think that you were making up a tall story. But it's not a tall story at all. It's reality. It's extraordinary. It's gee whiz science, and I believe that.
In fact, CRISPR won these two scientists, Emmanuelle Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna, the 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Katie Kopp is living proof of their incredible discovery and Dr. McGurk's passion and execution.
I'm grateful for everything.
We have a surprise for Dr. McGurk, and that is that Katie wanted to join us in person today to say hi to you. What's it like being back together?
Hey!
Hey! It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. How was Paris?
It was wonderful. It was great. The most wonderful part of the whole thing was telling the world about your story.
That's exciting.
It was very exciting.
You two have developed quite the relationship during your time together, so it's always good to see you two back. Katie, how long have you been cancer-free? How are you feeling?
Well, since July 29th of 2020. So 2020 was a very good year for me, unlike for a lot of people, but doing great.
Living life.
Yes, absolutely.
We love to hear it.
Absolutely.
Katie, your story is what Dr. McGurk has referred to as gee whiz science.
Absolutely.
Your wife teases you about using that term, but
yes.
I love telling people about it. What do you mean by gee whiz science?
It's, you know, if I describe this to a layperson, just on the street or at a restaurant, they would look at me as if I were doing some illegal substance, and thinking this just can't be, but it is, and it's really remarkable. Taking a patient's cells out of their bloodstream to the laboratory, genetically modifying them, and such that they'll recognize and attack and kill the cancer, and seeing stunning results we've never seen in cancer therapeutics, the kind of advances that we've seen with CAR T-cell therapy in leukemias and in lymphomas like that, which Katie had to deal with.
How many types of CAR T therapy are there? Why don't more patients know about it?
There are 6 now Food and Drug Administration approved CAR T-cell therapies for different types of lymphomas, acute leukemia, and multiple myeloma, and many, many more to come. They're being studied in solid tumors now in the context of clinical trials, in other blood cancers as well. It's really a revolution in cancer therapeutics that's in the midst of unfolding.
Katie, you were part of this trial. Dr. McGurk, how soon, though, will this off-the-shelf CAR T be widely available to more patients? You know, we think it's coming in the relatively near future. What does that mean? In the next few years, we saw remarkable advances like that which Katie has experienced in patients who are cured of their disease essentially years out from CAR T-cell therapy, using somebody else as a donor instead of using the patient's own T-cells, which is the basis for all of the FDA-approved or Food and Drug Administration-approved CAR T constructs. We think using it from a person who's never had cancer, never been exposed to chemotherapy, might be even better. And through the work of the 2 Nobel-winning scientists that you mentioned earlier, we can now genetically engineer a normal, healthy person's cells such that they will not be rejected by the patient, Katie, and they won't recognize Katie and attack Katie, causing a problem called graft versus host disease. And that has advanced the field by leaps and bounds. Exciting time in your field, for sure. So we love getting questions directly from our community, but today we ask medical staff some of the more common questions that they get from patients. And Lynn wants to know, do patients have to try and fail other treatments before getting CAR T? That was the case with Katie. When we roll out a new therapeutic, even very promising as CAR T cells have been, that's usually tried in very advanced patients. Once it proves its worth there, we start moving it up. So today, stem cell transplant has gone by the wayside for many indications of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the most common form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and CAR T cells supplanted it in the second line. Katie was treated in the third line of therapy after having failed multiple prior regimens. Now that we're in the second line, the question is, well, should this be up front? Should we treat patients in the first place with this? And such studies are underway, including at our own center. So we're getting there. Yes, we are getting there. Question from Will, what's the difference between a bone marrow transplant and a stem cell transplant? We hear both. What's the difference? Same thing. Okay. We can collect the bone marrow through a bone marrow harvest in the operating room, like we saw with Jonathan, or we can stimulate the stem cells to come out in the blood, collect them with a machine called a leukapheresis machine. The difference is that there are more T cells in the peripheral blood, and those T cells cause graft versus host disease. That may be associated with decreased risk for relapse. So for the individual patient, we decide on bone marrow versus peripheral blood stem cells. So both are intended for the same results. That's correct. I want to get today's takeaways from our guests, and let's go around. Jonathan, we're going to start with you. What do you want folks to take away from your story?
Just to understand that if you want to put yourself in the system, and if you want to be a bone marrow donor, to when the call comes, go through with what you originally stated. I mean, go through with what you wanted to do originally, and that was to donate. If somebody calls and somebody really needs you and you have the chance to save a life, use the opportunity and do what you say you were going to do. Don't do it to make you feel good in the moment. And then when the call comes and somebody needs you, to not follow through with it. So that would be my biggest message for everybody, is just when you commit to something, follow through with it, and understand that what you're doing is you're giving somebody hope, and you're giving somebody the chance to live their life just like you're living your life. So that would be my message.
Just what you did for your sister. Amanda, what's the takeaway from your story?
We've had the same takeaway from the very beginning. I mean, going from 26-1 to Jonathan, I mean, it's when you sign up, you sign up. you got to follow me. It's a life and death decision for, I mean, if these people wouldn't have signed up for me and we wouldn't have gotten down to Jonathan, there's a dang good chance I wouldn't be here. And it's the same for other people. I mean, they need these shots too in order to live their life and have a chance at being cured. Otherwise, who knows what the alternative is.
Well, thank you both for sharing your story. Amanda, most importantly, stay healthy and stay safe. You're in the home stretch, so to speak. No pun intended. Thank you both. Thank you both. Katie, what's the takeaway from all of this? I mean, you just being one of the first to get this treatment and just to be living proof.
Well, I would like to echo what Jonathan and Amanda said. That's huge. I hadn't actually thought of that before. But another thing that Dr. McGurk has taught me is that spread the word. People don't know. They don't know that this is, I certainly didn't know. They didn't know this gee whiz science. And it's, you know, you kind of sound nerdy sometimes when you're just hanging out with friends and, oh my gosh, you know, these women got this Nobel Prize, you know, for splitting genes and saving lives, you know. So I guess just spreading the word, becoming a little bit more knowledgeable. You know, if you hear anything about anybody that's struggling with cancer, it doesn't matter what kind it is, you know, still it'll get through the grapevine. So, because that's what I've heard the most is that, you know, wow, I didn't know that you could do something like that. Yeah. So that's huge.
You bring up nerdy stuff, and Dr. McGurk's ears perk up. That's right. So, I mean, you have called this truly the most exciting time in your long career. You know, I don't like to admit how long you've been doing this, and we won't make you share, but just how exciting, and what does it mean for you to get up and come into work every day?
We're in the middle of a revolution in cancer therapeutics right now. We're seeing advances that are unprecedented in the history of cancer therapy. And we can envision a future where non-specific chemotherapy, as we've known it for decades, its days are numbered and it will disappear. Non-specific radiation therapy, and we're much, much more precise in how we kill these cancers without causing so much collateral damage to other normal healthy tissues for our patients. It is the most exciting time of my career. I've always been an optimist and excited about what I do. But I get up every day. I count my blessings every day. I really do.
I know you do.
And I don't get upset in traffic. And if somebody cuts me off, I wave and say hi. Because look at Katie and Amanda and Jonathan. This is what it's all about. And the opportunity to get to work with people like Jody. The whole team is like Jody. It's an incredible privilege and blessing to be able to work with folks like that. We absolutely are passionate about what we do, and to look at Amanda and see Amanda walk into clinic looking beautiful as she does and healthy is just still, it's mind-boggling. I just can't believe it still, and I've been doing this for 35 years plus maybe a little bit.
So people have to pinch you sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's really just almost indescribable.
Thank you for the work you do. Thank you to all of our guests. Katie, thank you so much for sharing your story as well. And thank you all for watching.
Coming up next week, prostate cancer. It's growing more common and more curable, and many patients can choose their cure.
It's just pretty standard for me to say, I'd like another opinion. In this case, they were very different opinions.
He said the best thing for us to do is to sit down and talk about what do you want to do.
Two men, two very different treatments. How patients and providers work together to pick the right plan.
If you've been diagnosed with a blood or bone marrow disorder, get a second opinion at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, the region's only National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer center. Call 913-588-1227 to connect with a nurse navigator today.